Nicholas Gal with an itch.
That's right.
All right, welcome to the podcast, Talent Talks. I'm Jonathan Reynolds, your host, and it's a privilege to have you listening today. It's a podcast about, somebody asked me recently, they said, what is your podcast about? And I was like, it's not about leadership necessarily. It's not about talent necessarily. It's about people I find curious. I just met somebody the other day at a grocery store, and I thought, I should have them on the podcast. That story sounds really intriguing. But today I'm sitting with my good friend, Nick Galich, pronounced Gal with an itch, Galich. And he is a fascinating person and leads the human resources and all people development, hiring, engagement, retention, development, which is a topic which I happen to love as well. He leads that for Froedtert Hospital Systems, known as Froedtert South in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Welcome to the show, Nick Galich. I'm not going to be able to get that out of my head now. Oh my gosh. Okay. Did I describe what you do in the summation just there, or would you want to expound on that?
Absolutely. I think you did a good job. But the other thing I get to do is I get to interact with awesome people every day and help them work to their top potential. And that's really a pleasure and an honor to do that.
I love that. Helping people reach their potential. So you have thousands of employees.
2,400.
24. Well, that's in the thousands.
That's right.
Over 1,000.
That's right.
Over 2,000. That's thousands. So 2,400 people. And has that grown over time with your tenure at the hospital?
It has. When I started, we were at about a little over 1,000.
Okay. And how long have you been with the organization?
20 years this July.
Shut up.
I know.
20 years in July. What will they do for you?
We'll probably have a little party and I'll get a pin.
A pin?
A pin.
For 20 years of service, you're going to get a pin? That's it?
Right. That's probably what I'll get this year.
But do you decide as the head of human resources what people get for their 20 years?
Yeah, we actually do a little bit different. We get gifts and things for people typically. Yeah. They get to select things that are, that they would like. So
okay.
Something like that.
You're picking the pin?
I'll pick the pin.
You wear it? I mean, is this a pin that you wear around with pride?
It is. It's a decal that goes on your name badge.
Oh, okay. All right. So it goes on your name badge that you have to wear as a hospital.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I thought you'd get some like North Face jacket or something like that.
Those are options too.
Okay. All right. Cool. So seeing people reach their full potential. When you started in your career, I'm assuming this is like your main and only job outside of college, right?
It is actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Other than working at a fast food restaurant.
And were you good at that?
I thought I was. It wasn't really a fast food restaurant. It was a grill. It was like a pub, family pub. So yeah, I was the dishwasher when I started. I got promoted to being the cook.
Hey, no way.
Yeah,
I started as a dishwasher too. It was one of my first jobs.
Yeah.
And I never got promoted to be the cook.
Yeah.
They're like, this guy is eating food off of people's plates as it comes in here. They're like, he is not allowed to be around the cooking section. He's going to eat half the food. Okay, so. Full potential. You realized at the grill that you had a greater potential than staying there as a cook. You ended up in a Froedtert Hospital Systems, and I say systems, but it's not really systems, is it?
No, it's just Froedtert. It's the Froedtert Health Network, but I ended up at Froedtert South.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the Froedtert Health Network is huge. There's like tens of thousands of employees.
It is. Yes, it is.
And one of the largest employers in the state of Wisconsin.
It is. Yes.
That's impressive to be a part of that. If you were going to, you talk about helping people reach their full potential. If you were going to leave Froedtert Hospital, what would it be for?
I really don't. I don't think about that very often. But I guess if I were to leave, it would be something totally different. I've always talked about running a hotel. Just a weird experience.
No way.
Yeah, doing something in hospitality.
Hospitality doesn't surprise me at all. Like your skills with people and rallying teams and inspiring people. So what is it about the hospitality and hotel space that would be fascinating to you?
I've always thought it'd be really cool to help people have a great vacation. and just have a great time when they're off and in their leisure time.
Yeah.
I've always thought that'd be a lot of fun.
So if literally if a hotel group reached out to you and said, "Hey, would you want to lead the da 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 da?" You'd be like, "This is crazy uncanny," but I would entertain a conversation.
I might entertain a conversation, but I probably wouldn't, because I do like what I do now.
See, I'm going down a road here, and you're like, do you not go here? This is a podcast. My executive team will see this. Okay, so I mean, it's a funny thing in the talent recruitment space. We talk about this. 80% of people out there would be open to exploring a career move if it was truly superior.
True.
So we love that stat. I'm like, cool. I got 8 out of 10 phone calls. I got a yes to if I asked the question just like that. Would you be open? And everyone's got a reason. Like, what would be truly superior that I would be open to exploring? Right. So we talk about it in our company. I want to create such a great culture where people being continuously developed.
Yeah.
For the next opportunity, and we hope it's with us.
That's right.
We really want it to be with us, but I recognize full well that there are people in there who want to go work for a hotel. And not that you want to go work for a hotel, but if you were ever going to leave, you would be off doing something completely different in the hospitality space. So how do you? I'm baffled by this with thousands of employees. Helping grow people to their full potential. How do you do that on a strategically? How do you do that with a hospital system? Like, what are you doing?
Well, it gets down to the nuts and bolts. It goes from, you look at it from a very large 30,000 foot view. And in that, you're looking at programming and partnerships with schools, with different things, and helping people see what different options they have. Because I think sometimes, especially in healthcare, you get a lot of people that, maybe they are a CNA, and they think the only thing they could do is be a nurse, but there are hundreds of jobs that they could do. And we want to help them find ways to look at those, because maybe they would be more fulfilled in that long term. We want to make sure that people get in the right spot that they're going to be fulfilled in, because then they're going to want to come to work, they're going to want to do their job every day, and they're going to be happy about it. So maybe somebody that wanted to be a CNA is going to school to be a nurse. They're thinking they want to be a nurse, but maybe they'd be happier as a respiratory therapist or working in the lab. Maybe they're an introvert and they would prefer to, do that kind of thing. Everybody's got but a lot of people have these, they feel like they're stuck in these paths that they've created for themselves, and it's just not true. And we want to make it for our employees, show them that there is another way.
So you said like education and things like that. Do you actually work in partnership with schools to develop? Like, do you pay for people's education?
We do. And we have programs where we pay. We do in-house training for certain jobs to help people start moving along. We pay for people to work while they're going to school. For example, like nurses, when they're going to school, they have a job with us. And it's a benefit to both us and the student, because the student gets to get real world experience, but they also get it's also an opportunity for us, because they're getting orientated at that time. So once they're done once they graduate nursing school, they can start and begin work with us sooner.
I found you to be really inspiring. I've kind of watched. We've known each other, I don't know, 7 years.
Yeah, at least
7, 8 years. And one of the things I just was mind blown by. Well, a few things I've had my mind blown by. I've had meals with you out and about, and everybody is a potential employee. Like,
that's true.
Hey, what are you doing with your life? Have you reached your full potential yet? Like, I'm just serving here. You're like, you going to school? I'll pay for your schooling. You're like, flip are you, dude? And you're like, do you want to be a nurse? Do you want to be this? We're going to leveling up everybody on their skills. But one of the things, and I want you to talk about this because I found this really innovative and fascinating, is you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. You went to a local higher educational organization and said, I'll give you an entire floor of our hospital as your classroom.
Yep.
You run the program here. And I'm sitting there going, you genius. So there was literally a university college rather, schools running in the hospital, and you had fair, free pickings, exclusive pickings of the top students for the hospital.
Exactly.
Walk me through that, because
Yeah, so that was that was for a certified nursing assistant program, and one of the problems that we saw is that at the time there were about 180 students graduating certified nursing assistant programs in the area. We need 100. We need to hire 100 a year just to break even. So because it's a high turnover, because a lot of people that go into that role are doing it short term and then they're going into something else. It's really kind of a feeder program. And so it's really a numbers game. And so we met with the school multiple times at the local technical college and just said, what is it that's preventing you from having 600, 700? What do you need to have more?
Yeah.
And they said, there's two things. It's space and it's teachers. And I said, well, let's see if we can help you with that. And what we said is that, well, why don't we have space and we aren't using it right now. So you can come and use the space.
Yep.
And then you can have more classes. And we also looked for teachers and said, I've got floors full of nurses, and I'll bet you I can get some of them to come and teach a class after they're done working for their shift, work a little longer and help teach. And we were able to do that. And now, I actually just got the numbers yesterday, we're graduating between 600 and 800 CNAs out of the county every year.
That is phenomenal. Now, okay, thinking as a business mind, if I have that hat on, you have competition or competitive healthcare systems in your area.
Absolutely.
Are they doing the same thing?
No, but they do benefit for what we do because we're increasing the number of people in the area. So they benefit on that. And really, that's not the way that I see it. Is it's a numbers game, because some people will be better served by going to work for a competitor. You never want to say that, but sometimes that's a better fit for them.
Yeah.
And my goal is to make sure people have a good fit, because I want them to work with us and be a good fit for our culture and be a good fit for the community that we will serve. But we also, through the program, we benefit the greater healthcare community. And it's not just our hospital competitors, but there's nursing homes, there's assisted living facilities, there's all sorts of different things. There's home health. All of those things support us as well. So we're helping develop those pipelines as well for them.
That is
because
huge.
they benefit the hospital.
And I'm assuming you get first picks or the best people.
We do.
So what you would say, you're graduating 600, 700, 800 people a year, and you get the best ones. So people need to go to Froedtert Hospital.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Let's be really explicit here. You are not letting the good ones go.
No.
Okay, they're going to the blankety blank.
That's
hospital,
right.
Which we will mention.
That's right.
Nick and I go back, and we have a deal that we will not work with. We will not work with the other hospital healthcare systems in the area. We work exclusively with Froedtert because they're the best. So, and just to full transparency, we do Titus as a long-standing partnership with you and Froedtert.
Absolutely,
a real privilege. I love some of the cool cutting-edge things you do, and not to mention what you just shared the story. I'm thinking we have a lot of business owners, business leaders, and executives listening to this podcast. And I think, whoa, how do I take that principle? You've given up a whole wing of your hospital or a whole floor to turn it into a technical college to draft and develop and train and equip people that you could benefit from, and in addition to benefits the county with great healthcare. I'm kind of putting my hat on going, how do I duplicate or replicate something like that? If there is a talent shortage, and a lot of people are always looking to draft and develop people, are there other industries that you think that would work in? I mean, I don't know. Are you copying somebody else doing something like that? How did you get that idea?
I mean, really, the idea came just from the fact that somebody said, I've got this problem. And I said, well, we can fix that problem. So if we had the ability to fix the problem, and so that's how it came apart. It wasn't that we went out and searched and said, what's the best idea? We said, what is the problem that's preventing, what is the roadblock? And then try to remove that roadblock so that the school could get that. The other big roadblock was CNAs in the state of Wisconsin have to be certified. So they have to go for testing. Yep. The closest testing for people in Kenosha was Janesville, which is, quite a distance.
Yeah.
And so only about 40% of people that were taking the CNA class were getting tested, were taking the test. So it was one of two reasons. One is that they couldn't get the test because they couldn't get the ride, or two, some people don't take the test because they're just doing it as a prereq for getting into nursing school or something like that. They don't have to take the test for it. But as of yesterday, through the technical college we work with, they shared that the testing number is up to 60% now. So versus the 40% that it used to be.
So, okay, growing and developing people to their full potential. There are people who have been CNAs their whole life and they just love it.
Yep.
Obviously, I would say their full potential, but that's what they love.
That's right.
Very happy in that world. That's great. How do you work in a healthcare system with like one-on-ones, finding out what's in people's hearts? What do they see their full potential as? Where do they want to go? How do you do that on a mass scale of thousands of employees?
Well, there's two ways. One of the things you have in healthcare is that when people are training and doing things, you have clinicals, and so it's a whole mentorship program. People talk about mentorship being really popular. We've been doing mentorship in healthcare since healthcare started, because you have to have mentors to help teach you and guide you as you're going. So those people help us identify where people's strengths are. Yeah. And you have to train people to do that and they have to know how to do that. The other big thing is your managers, is your local supervisors are the ones that are going to have the biggest impact on any employee's experience at work. Yeah. And so if you can help them to identify people that can do more, that would want to progress and advance what they're doing, that's the best thing you can do. So we try really hard to make sure that those supervisors are aware of all of the different programs that we have available, so they can be as big of an advocate as I am. Yeah. So I'm thinking you're in industry like hospitality, the kind of restaurant industry, food service industry, healthcare, they're all high turnover. Mm-hmm. Right? Yep, absolutely. So, and I would imagine you don't have high turnover with physicians. Not too bad, no.
That's not too bad. But CNAs, would that be one of the highest?
It is high turnover, but and we've seen over the last couple of years, I think, like every industry, where turnover has just increased quite a bit. Yeah. So in order to complement that, we've had to look at how do we do things a little bit different, because it's really a reality. It's not it's something that you can change. So you have to change the way you orientate people. You have to change the way that you look at hiring people to make sure you can keep that volume coming through. Yeah. And those are the things you have to do, because if you sit back and say, I just want it to be how it used to be, where I didn't have to really worry about any of these things, you're going to lose in this market. So what are some of the things that you do, which you maybe better than your competitors, or maybe they don't do it at all? Like, how do you go about keeping and developing your CNAs? Like, what are some of the kind of the secret sauce for? Well, I think one of the things you do is you have, as I was talking about before, is create the connections for people right off the bat, whether it's the educators that are teaching them from day one, it's the HR team that's orientating them. One of the things that I've really pushed is a lot of companies still have moved to all online orientation. Yeah. And I get that. And I think there's a place for that. But for new employees, I've really tried to get them in for at least a half a day where they're actually in person and we can have that time to create the connection instead of having somebody just go through that's great. A video, because otherwise they don't have that connection with the company or the people. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So you do have a half day in-person orientation? Yep, we do a half day just to make sure that everybody gets that and they get to meet. So you at a minimum have a contact with someone from the human resources department from day one. And I find it helpful because I've seen it with employees where they know they can reach out to that person if they're having trouble. Right. Do you evaluate and see if the turnover is dropped because of this, or do you actually know, or is it a guess? It's a guess, okay. But it's a we know that we've been able to retain several people because of that, because on day one, things that are simple, where you can't find something, or your health benefits, something wasn't working right. How do you get a hold of somebody? We try not to make it so that people have to sit on line and go into a call center.
Great.
We try to make it so that they have a person that they can call, and they can talk to that person that they know, that will help them get something squared away.
What's when you think of, I mean, I know a lot of folk who really dislike Glassdoor because we can't control what goes on there.
Yep.
And if you looked at your Glassdoor, what would be one thing that you're like, oh gosh, I wish I could bury that, or I wish I could change that?
I think one of the things that, and it's probably any healthcare organization, is that you're always having to balance the financial aspect of the organization against running and doing the things you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people have the wrong perception that is the only thing we're looking at, when I can tell you, as someone that makes decisions at a higher level, I'm constantly balancing the people, the financial aspect, what's good for the community, what's good for, the healthcare organization.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing on Glassdoor that really stings when I've seen that. And I wish that people that did that would actually come have a conversation about it, because I would always like to at least have an opportunity to explain the situation, or hear why someone has that perception, so that we can adjust it and change it.
So would you say that a lot of the negative stuff that you want to change, that it would be like, hey, the company's making a lot of money and I want more myself?
Yep. And which usually isn't always as true.
Right.
That it's not actually true in many cases, because hospitals have very, very slim margins. Totally. And so and especially with going through COVID and everything else, it's made the financial situation in hospitals much more difficult than it's ever been.
Now I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've seen quite a lot of compensation increases that you've given out to a lot of people in the organization to compete with market rates and things like that.
Yeah, multiple times a year, which is in the last 3 to 5 years, we've seen multiple market increases each year. I mean, when I started in this, you were lucky to see an increase once a year. It was just a common thing. That was just, you did an evaluation, you did it once a year. Now, to keep up, most companies, including us, are doing it 2 or 3 times a year, just to make sure that we're staying competitive.
It's wild. That is a different age we're in.
Absolutely.
What's one thing, if you had a magic wand in your HR world right now, I've been here 20 years in July, what's one thing that you're like, if I could wave this wand and it would make life so much better for you, what would it be?
Have unlimited funds to help pay people what they want.
Just pay people what they want.
That's great.
Set your own salary.
That's right. That's what I would do.
Oh my gosh! I actually, there's a few companies that do this, but there's the one that I know very open about this is WD-40, the company.
Yep.
They have 100% compensation transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody knows what everybody makes.
Yep.
And Gary, the CEO founder, like, he'll talk really openly about what it does of an accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And you get people actually rising to it. I'm like not a fan of it. But
yeah.
I just think money is very, very emotional.
It is totally.
And that's why you're saying that you get an emotional response on Glassdoor rather than.
That's right.
It's not a cerebral response; it's emotional. So you have to be really careful about that. But seriously, unlimited funds. What else would you say the big fix?
I think increasing a number of people available in the talent pool, because I think that's the biggest challenge. I mean, we've talked about this before. Is that the challenge is that there's more jobs right now than there are people to fill them.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to have that just be a little less difficult, I think, for everybody, because especially in our case, because if we fail at filling positions, someone is not getting probably the care that they want to get. We want to make sure they're getting the best quality care, and you need a certain number of people to make sure that happens. And so we take it very seriously that what we do
it's
really
like
affects that. Exactly. In a way it is, yes.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, in the healthcare space, if you don't have the people to take care of people, then some people that get sick and die.
That's right.
All right. That's a lot of weight on your shoulders.
It is.
I remember during, like, right at the beginning of the pandemic, I mean, you were Like it's almost like you were a medical professional,
Yeah.
making sure people got with the things that they needed, and it was working around the clock like crazy.
It was probably the most challenging time of my career.
Yeah.
And in addition to everything else that I did during that time, I was put in charge of our response for doing the vaccines. So I made sure that there were vaccines. We set up a process to vaccinate 2,000 people a day. And we were just running people through for months.
We're going to get to politics and religion in a bit, so stay tuned. We hit on vaccines. It's his job. Just chill, everyone. Keep going.
But anyway, that was just regardless of what people think about it. That was just something that I was dealing with and had the opportunity to do. And it's once in a lifetime. I'll be able to tell people that's what I did. I was participating in that whole thing.
There you go. Honestly, I'm being really good here. I'm staying quiet.
You are. I'm impressed.
But seriously, no, I'm just joking. All right. So stress. Okay. How do you? I'm going to go to the personal side here because carrying a lot of the stress is the most stressful time in your career in the last few years. How do you deal with stress?
Personally, I do a lot. It doesn't look like it, Jonathan, but I do try to walk as frequently as I can.
Couple of
steps here and there. But I also do. It's also hanging out with my friends and family and trying to get just not think about that whole situation and just go on to something different. So it works out well when I get that opportunity. So I use, interestingly enough, is I use people, and my interactions with people tend to help me de-stress.
I'm a high relational person, and over time I found myself pulling back and isolating myself.
Yep.
I don't always know if it's the right thing to do or the best thing to do for me, but I'm just like in such a people facing. So I was interested to hear how you do it. So you have a circle or a group of people who are your kind of give life to you, family and friends.
Yep.
What is the unhealthy stress dealer for you that you're like,
Eating.
Okay. So
yep.
You eat your stress.
That's right. I think a lot of people do, and that's.
Why did you look at my belly when you said that?
I don't know. It was just random.
We joke around, and my family's not a joke, but I celebrate with food, and then I commiserate with food as well.
That's right.
Bad day. Can we just go out and eat? Or can we have a really good, good meal here? And also it would be celebratory. So it's not a good thing. I wish I was one of those people. I'm like, man, I'm stressed. I went for a 10-mile run. I'm like, how did you train yourself to do that? It's amazing.
It's impressive.
It is impressive. Okay, so the unhealthy version of how you handle stress to pain or loss, like maybe the better word would be regret. What would it be a regret that you have in your world? If you look back over the last couple of decades, biggest regret?
Honestly, one of the things I always wanted to do when I was younger, and I think it was just an opportunity for me to do that, is I always wanted to be in the military, and I wanted to do something for the country as a whole.
Yeah.
But I had the opportunity right away to work with the hospital when I was right out of high school.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to give that up to take time off and do something else. And it did work out, but that's something that I would have done. And I always was very, one of my role models in life was my grandfather, and he was, they grew up being very patriotic and very into the military. My grandpa was a Marine. And so very, something I always wanted to do, something that I probably maybe regret for an extent, but you make choices on what you do, and it worked out. But that might have been something else I would have done.
Excuse my naivety as a British by birth, American by choice. Could you go into the military now or not?
I probably could, but I'd probably be too old.
Really?
I think I'm too old. I don't know. I wouldn't know that. I think I'm too old right now.
Really?
Yeah.
How old are you?
37.
37 is too old to go to the joint?
I think it is. I think it
Fact
is.
check. Somebody.
Yeah, I might be too fat as well. So
Well, that's where I was going. I was thinking maybe we could actually work up together. You and I could just join the military. Sounds
that's right.
well. I'm definitely old.
Well, they do have that. They do have like SEAL training that you can go to. Just
I lived
just
in
for
San
fun.
Diego. I lived in San Diego. I used to watch. I go to the beach and watch them. I would sit there and have a burger, a Coronado Island, and just sit there watching these people doing log rolls on the beach. It was awful. It was inspiring.
It is
Very
inspiring.
inspiring.
It is inspiring.
Not enough to get me to go and work out, but I'm working on that. But,
That's right.
Wow. Okay. So military, and that's a bit of a regret. Anything else?
I think the other thing is that I've always I always focused on school and work my whole life, and I probably should have early on in my life and during college and things like that. I probably should have taken more time just to enjoy the now and enjoy the things that were happening. I think I do that now, but I didn't understand that at the time. I thought it was all just I was very focused on goals.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just don't appreciate the time that you have and where you're sitting at that moment.
Sure. I mean, I think you're very career and professionally minded.
Yep.
I don't know. I've never met your wife and family, but what would your wife say that she would wish that you would change?
She would probably tell me that she would wish I would be more healthy and eat and change my eating habits. My wife's a dietitian, so she's always thinking that way, and she wants me to be healthy because she wants me to be there for our kids and our family later on. So and I am working on that. I've lost 20 pounds.
Well done.
Yeah, so I'm working on it.
That's huge.
That's right.
That's huge. I am the unhealthiest I've been in my life, and this is a year of breakthrough. I'm going to work on it. So
okay.
You're inspiring me.
All right.
20 pounds, dude. That's awesome.
Yep.
I'm so extreme. I'm like, oh, if you just told me don't eat for 30 days, I would be like, all right, I'll do it. And I've lived in these extreme things in my life.
That's my problem too.
Consistency. Our podcast recently, we had Tiffany from Titus's team on that. She was talking about one of the things that characteristics she values most in leadership is consistency. And I'm sitting there going, golly, I'm so inconsistent. And I'm glad she doesn't report to me because she would have quit a long time ago. But I'm like, consistency is, if that's a leadership characteristic trait that's attractive to that person, Tiffany in particular. But I'm thinking, how do I grow in consistency when I'm such a passionate, erratic, in the moment, like, let's do it, let's go,
but you're consistently erratic.
That's exactly what she said. She's like, no, you're consistently inconsistent, which is great.
But isn't it more, in my experience, it's not that you're not inconsistent, it's that people kind of start to know what you're going to do and how you're going to respond to things.
Yeah.
And you respond to things, you tend to respond, we all do, we tend to respond in the same way. Your response is just that you get excited and want to, totally do something.
Yeah. And I think employing these facets of our character to our advantage. Okay, I'm going to use that strength and I'm going to manage that strength, but I'm also going to discipline that strength. Mm-hmm. I have this wicked humor thing. I just think so many things are funny and things come in my head. And somebody recently said to me, I made a joke. It was a serious moment, but it's usually the serious moments when I make the jokes because I'm like, oh, that's really funny and it'll lighten the mood. And they turned to me, they said, imagine how the conversation would have gone had you not made that joke. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but it really hit hard. And I'm like, golly, that is I really appreciate it. I want to thank them for it because it's something that I always want to grow in. I want to grow in that, how I come across to other people, and adjusting and adapting. And I'm like, oh gosh, but it was so helpful. I've caught myself so many times in the last few weeks since this person challenged me. And I'm like, I won't say that joke because it just changes the environment and people don't receive what somebody was saying because I just derailed it.
Yeah.
But and it's funny. This would be something that my wife would for years been like, can you just come down on these jokes? I know it's funny, but you totally derailed the conversation. But everyone laughed. She's like, yeah, but it took us so much time to get back to what this person was saying. And I'm like, oh, what else from your lovely wife of how many years have you been married?
Almost 13 this year.
13. Well
Yeah.
done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is, you are crushing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Crushing it based on national averages. So well
Yeah.
done. Well done. What's another area that your wife would say, oh, I want Nick to really grow in this area?
I think the other thing is she'd always want me to be here and now when I'm there and focused on the family. And I think that
Yeah.
that's always a challenge sometimes because you have a bad day at work or something like that, and all that you're carrying all of that. So you
Yeah.
have to, how can you be more present, and make sure you're there? Because my other big job is to make sure I'm a great dad to my kids
Yeah.
and a good husband to my wife. And so
Yeah.
that's something I'm always working on, trying to make sure that I can be as present as possible when I'm around them.
What do you do with your phone at home?
I try to turn it off or move it away from me, but then have you ever find that where you stand up and you just start looking for it? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not you're just doing it naturally.
I went through a kind of like a tech fast, and I had an entire week without a watch or a phone. I had no access to it,
Oh my.
and it took a few days. You had the whole phantom phone vibration in your pocket. I didn't even have a phone.
Yep.
I'm like, what is that? I'd hear sounds that I thought were dinging sounds.
Yep.
And I'm like, did you hear that? And it was just totally in my head. But
Yeah.
it took a few days for me to come down from it. When I got my phone back, I had it for 24 hours without turning it on.
Wow, that's great.
I did not want it on.
Huh.
And I realized how fast it is to go to the bathroom. No, that's one thing I realized. I'm like, wow, this is so quick when you don't have a phone. One of the things I definitely realized just being that present.
Yep.
I was present in conversations. I didn't have any desire for a distraction,
Yep.
but we've trained ourselves to be distracted.
Exactly.
We've trained ourselves to multitask. We've trained ourselves to respond to the pings and the dings. And
You're doing it right now.
I looked at my phone and I was like, oh, But it matters if you think about the amount of times where you go to look at something on your phone, but the notifications distract you, and
Yep.
then you go, "What was I doing again?
That's right.
What was I doing again?" And I think that dynamic of the people who are most important in our life deserve our attention.
They do. I agree with you.
How do we get radical about that piece? That your kids will be like, my dad was so present.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's what I want my kids to say, and they wouldn't today. They wouldn't say that. For the last few weeks, I've been practicing this thing. My phone is allowed in two places in the house. It's allowed in my office, home office, and it's allowed in what we call the mud room, and it doesn't come into the living space of the house. So I don't have it in my bedroom, and I don't have it in any living space.
Wow.
And it's just a new practice. Don't be really impressed with me, but it's just something I'm trying.
Yeah.
And it's even a battle. I have to train myself that it doesn't come into that space. And what I find, I'll walk in a room and I've got teenagers and I'm like, why is everyone on their phones? Like suddenly I become, the judgmental one because I'm not doing it. But I realize how I'm observe it in other people now, and I'm really thankful that I'm working on being more present, and the availability my family see, it makes them slowly. You see people putting their phones down because I'm actually available.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, this is cool. So I want to be there, available and present, and I think that's a big practice, not just in the personal world but also professionally.
Yep.
And it's something I'm working on. So even hearing you say that I want to work on this, I'm like, yeah. I'm with you. So
Yep.
I will be pinging you to go, how present are you? You're like, I was until you texted me.
That's right.
But it is, you're a relational person, and we want to be available for everyone, but
Yep.
that means we're not available for those who should have the higher priority.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a deep thoughts. I'm an outside processor, so I hadn't thought about these things. You bringing them up, you're talking. I'm like, yes, I want to change in that area.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to fast food yet, but you didn't inspire me in that area. But
You want to give up fast food?
yeah, I think I haven't had McDonald's in about over a decade.
Really?
Yeah, I used to like I could eat 2 quarter pounders and fries and be like, whoa. And my wife's like, it's disgusting. Can you stop doing it? And I was like, babe, I can do it. And she goes, go on, Ed. And I said, I give you my word, I will never eat McDonald's a day in my life again. And I won't. And I haven't. It's been over a decade.
Wow.
Even the family are like, hey, can we go? I'm like, yep, we're on a road trip. And I'm like, I won't have it.
Wow.
But that's the extreme part of me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, why can't you just be balanced?
Do you eat fast food anywhere else?
I would. I try not to have fast food.
Yeah.
But the problem is I really love food, and I would go with the richer. The
Yep.
richer, the better.
Yep.
Um,
You like Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A is that fast food?
It is.
Oh,
It
okay.
counts.
I don't do it on Sundays, but
Okay.
yeah. It's like the only time I want Chick-fil-A is Sunday. I'm like, yes. Oh, frick.
They're
No.
closed.
But yeah, Chick-fil-A, I do like that. But I would tend to avoid the fast food. But any type of consistency is probably the biggest challenge for me in my life.
Mhm.
So, but I want my most important to me is that my kids would see me growing in consistency.
Yep.
And I let them know. I'm like, hey, and it's, you know, you have teenagers, and I'm like, hey, you know, Dad, why are you standing in the mudroom on your phone? I'm like, because it's not allowed in the. I don't mind. You go, oh, the new and improved you, is it? And I'm like, yeah, it is the new and improved me. Shut up, you know. I'm working at this thing, you know. But I think in time they've realized I'm actually committing to this thing, and it's important to me. And they realize why it's important because they're important.
Yep.
So, but yeah, constantly working. You know, we're always a work in progress, aren't we? What's something else that you want to work on as a leader in life this year?
One of the things I always try to work on is being to the same extent as being as present as I can to my team, and making sure that I can clear the obstacles for them so that they can do their job better. And I think that it's a lot of the same concepts that we're talking about, is making sure you're there, because you're sitting in your office and on the side I've got, you know, emails popping in and going crazy, and people are talking to me, and somebody's calling on the phone. It's very challenging, but I try very hard that when people come in, that I kind of turn things off and move and make sure that I'm focusing on them, because otherwise, as soon as you see those things popping, I'm very wanting to get, when something's there, I want it done and moved on and get it off my desks. And I have to really work on making sure that I'm focused on the person and what they need at the moment.
How do you, just practically, how do you do that? Do you actually create time blocks on your calendar to respond to emails and?
You know, no, I do. I kind of do that in between everything else, is when I'm not scheduled for things.
Yeah.
But I try to put, for the people that directly report to me, I try to have a 30-minute period every week that they can come in and just talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Okay.
Whatever they've got going on, let's just talk about it and let's deal with it. And that way they know that there's always time that I'm going to devote to them.
Okay.
Because if you're catching me in the middle of the week, I might be doing 5 other things, and I don't want people to feel like what they have is not important. And I want to make sure that I'm making myself as available as possible to people.
Do you do that in your personal world?
Try to, but it doesn't always work.
So you are consistent in the professional world, but not in your personal?
I think that would be probably a fair statement.
Whoa! Okay, here's the challenge to you. I don't know when to do this, but here's my challenge. If you want it. Are you open to a challenge?
I always like challenges.
Okay. I will check in with you in 30 days' time.
Sure.
And the goal is to put at least, I think probably an hour will be at least an hour every week on your calendar for your wife,
That's a great idea.
where the phone is not present, but you are.
That's a great idea.
Is challenge accepted?
Challenge accepted.
If anyone else listening, you want the same challenge, just ping me. I'll check in with you as well. In 30 days' time, I will report on the podcast how he did.
All right. That sounds good.
Nick, it is a pleasure having you here on the podcast, on the show today. I'm inspired. I'm challenged. A number of things that I'm gonna work on. Even just to continue on the present stuff, but and then activity on my physical being.
That's right.
I will commit to 5 times a week.
Wow.
Being active. And I will let you know in 30 days' time how I did.
All right. Sounds good, Jonathan.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye. Hey, thanks for joining today. obviously, like, subscribe, click, share, all of that kind of stuff. If you want to reach out to Nick, if you happen to be in the hotel industry and hospitality, and you're looking for someone to lead one of your hotels, call this guy. He'll at least answer. He'll answer. It's a pleasure being with you all today. See you next week. Cheers.